What's up, everybody? Welcome back to This American Ride podcast, where we talk about topics that affect you, the average American. What's up, and welcome back to the podcast, This American Ride. I'm George. I'm here with Bert, and kind of the first official episode, man. We're off and rolling.
Yeah, I guess we are.
I don't know where we're going.
We are.
I don't know where we're going, or but we're rolling. We're going somewhere.
We're going to figure it out along the way.
So, what's going on? How's the week going, man?
Oh, busy week.
Yeah.
Really, but just basic, boring, mundane stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Work, real life crap.
Yeah.
Very busy lately, but nothing to complain about.
Yeah. My workload's been legit, but my travel's been light. But I'm off to Tennessee early here, coming up in a few days.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I feel like it's gonna get busy again. It's like I'm on the precipitous. Is that what you say? The precipitous of busyness.
I don't think that's how you say that.
No, is that how I say that?
Precipice.
Precipice. There you go. Not precipitous.
Well, I mean, I know somebody that might pronounce it that way, but whatever. Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
So, I mean, something that's a big part of our life, obviously, between YouTube and Instagram. I mean, we have our personal Facebook pages, obviously, and we each have our own Instagrams, and we have a Baggers and Brews Instagram, and now a second YouTube channel, and that's social media, and I don't know, we're kind of a unique generation. We were talking about this, a little bit before we started recording, about how we are the last generation, to remember growing up and to grow up without this technology and social media.
To go outside and play?
Basically.
Yeah, we definitely are.
Yeah.
Definitely the last ones to, mess with a rotary phone, and then now we're using all this technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the younger generations, the Gen Zs and the millennials, can even imagine a world without these screens
and these phones. I didn't have a phone in my room until I don't think I ever actually had a phone in my room. I
never had a phone in my room.
We had the long phone cord. If anybody remembers the long phone cord, and if you had to talk, you like stretched the long phone cord like around the corner.
Well, I wasn't a teenage girl, so I didn't have a need for a phone in my room. I never even imagined I had no need for a phone in the room.
But you had two sisters. I mean, did they have phones in their rooms? Maybe, probably not. I don't know.
I really don't think they did, at least in the last house that we all kind of grew up and out of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. My memory could be off, but I don't remember. I remember the one in the kitchen. That's about it. I think that had a really, really long cord, and I think they hauled that down the hallway. But my room was downstairs, in this split level house. So mine's downstairs. I wasn't dragging that all the way down there. Plus, to this day, I hate talking on the phone. So
true story.
No desire to talk on the phone.
True story. Bert will text you, but probably not pick up your phone call. Or better yet, ignore the phone call and text you, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah, I hate it. I just, the concept of holding that thing to my ear.
Oh man. Or
even, I don't know, I just hate it.
So I mean, we grew up, and like I don't even know how we got together when we were kids. I mean, it seemed like you wound up with a big group of people together, but there was no, there was no texting. There was no.
I mean, when we got into high school, there was the whole beepers or pagers, but I never had one.
I did not have a pager.
Those were for drug dealers.
I know. Those are drug dealers. Was that MTV? Was that Real World? You have a beeper? You a drug dealer? OG Real World.
Mm-hmm.
But easy now.
Smooth that bad boy.
But yeah, pagers are like funny pager story. There's this guy, my neighbor Eddie, growing up, and the whole group of us, we were in the woods out here in Batstow someplace for on a Jersey Devil hunt.
Ooh.
That never goes good. So it was probably like, 2:00 in the morning, we snuck out. Everybody's like out in the woods, Batstow. And I'm walking near Eddie. I think like Joey was there, and this guy, Tony, was up ahead of us, and he had this pager, And back then, these beepers, they were cool colors. You could get like green and red and blue and all that stuff. Well, he had this little red beeper, and he was like squatted down in the woods, like looking at this, like looking at a page, I guess, and the red light was going on. And Eddie saw the red light like 50 feet ahead of us in the woods and lost his mind and took off running through the woods. And if anybody knows, like the Pine Barrens in the woods, like late at night, it is so dark. And he ran smack into a tree, and that's how his nose got messed up.
Dark in the woods at night.
Yep, running full speed.
Is it though? It never is on TV.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, sometimes it's not here if we have a real full moon, but it gets dark out here.
So social media.
Yeah.
Like you said, well, I know that I'm on a daily kind of covering 3 Instagrams. I mean, now with my own personal, like 3 YouTubes. It's just, a couple of 3 Facebooks, different pages, like trying to cover all those, getting comments and messages on all of them. Man, it's a full-time job. It's a full-time job. But now again, we're different in the sense that we're in the social media world for I guess a hobby or a part-time side hustle.
Yeah.
Just the average person though, they have their Twitter, Insta, TikTok, and one of each, but everyone's glued to them.
Oh yeah. And it's one of those things. I think we're kind of at the point now, and a little bit about, some of the stuff I was looking at is we're getting enough data, like social data now, to realize like what's good, what's bad. They're starting to like professionally draw conclusions about, what's excessive and what that means. And I'm going to hide this up here. We got a little screen we keep some notes on, but what do you think is excessive use? What do you think is considered excessive use of social media per day?
More than an hour?
It's not bad. It's more than 2 hours.
Well, okay, I was originally going to say that, but I thought that might be much.
So
they're saying anything over 2 hours is considered excessive.
Yep. Individuals who report excessive social media use defined as use for more than an average of 2 hours per day are twice as likely to report social isolation as those who spend less than half an hour per day using social media. So even though we think that the social media and Facebook is connecting us, it's really causing more isolation.
Well, absolutely. It's definitely isolating you. It's connecting you in a fantasy world, a world that really doesn't exist, but it's definitely isolating.
Well, fantasy world is like a whole nother aspect of this. And I think we always talk about that. You look at people's, Instagram, you look at people's Facebook, and you see like this snapshot of this charmed life that other people lead. And it's exactly what it is. It's a snapshot. It's not.
Well, nobody wants to show the crappy parts of their life, right?
No.
So all you see is the good. And every couple looks like the most amazing couple on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out they're getting divorced, and you're like, well, that's weird. It seems so great.
All of a sudden you see the wife posting pictures by herself and the husband posting pictures with his kids. They are the 2 hallmarks.
Yes.
They are the 2 hallmarks of every like couple I've seen get divorced on Facebook.
It's rough. It's really rough.
You guys can let us know if you see other than that, but usually it's the wife posting selfies and the husband posting pictures with the kids. And I don't know why that is, but it's just what I've seen, but yeah, that's it's rough. And I think people see this and they start to, have this self-comparison.
Oh,
where, it's not.
Well, it's the age-old keeping up with the Joneses,
Yep. But it's like a completely redefined keeping up with the Joneses. It's not like the Joneses come home with like a new sports car or camper and you're like, holy cow, or they put an addition onto the house and you're like, holy cow, this is like, you're seeing like doses of stuff like all the time,
I can't imagine being a young teen or young adult girl in this day and age, like basically growing up on that and being on that and dealing with what they see and the expectations that they have from what they see. I couldn't even imagine that. Yeah.
That is, and it's a lot of comparison. I mean, it's gotta be, right?
Yeah. So what did you see anything on like the negative effects? Like our studies starting to show
So
what the negative effects of too much excessive screen time is.
another study here. It says most broadly, researchers found sizable increases in the numbers of students who reported mental distress at some time. College-wide access to Facebook led to an increase in severe depression by 7% and anxiety disorder by 20%. Now, I mean, as somebody who works in medicine, obviously psychology isn't my thing. But I find it hard to understand how they have quantitated, the levels of anxiety that go into going with college and changing a life and that huge life change and connected that to Facebook use. It seems like,
Yeah.
it's like, do we have a measurement of that before? And I've been looking for a couple of days and I haven't really, I haven't seen much about that. And, the other thing that, we all know what anxiety is, but I wanted to get like an actual definition of anxiety, which I pulled from the American Psychiatric Association. This is general anxiety disorder involves persistent and excessive worry that interferes with daily activities. The ongoing worry and tension may be accompanied by physical symptoms such as restlessness, feeling on edge, easily fatigued, difficulty concentration, muscle tension, or problems sleeping. I think people have probably been having anxiety since the beginning of time in all reality.
Absolutely.
But,
I think it's just the way it's handled, and it's handled very differently nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think not enough people do like physical labor for
a living,
which is a bit of a stress relief. Getting out there and being physical tends to help the mind, body, and spirit. So, we aren't doing that now. We're just sitting around with our thoughts.
Yeah. And worse yet, looking at other people's good fortune and drawing the social comparison to.
There's always been stress since the beginning of time, I would imagine.
I've got to believe there's always been stress. Even from a farmer, like in 500 BC or a carpenter or whatever have you, the providing for the family, the job, the hours, the everything that, always went along with supporting yourself and having shelter and food. It's got to be, I think there has always been stress.
I just saw something recently, actually. Someone said it on, I think, another podcast I was watching. So I don't know it to be 100% fact, but this person said that farming is now, suicide is the highest and most prevalent in farming now as occupation.
I saw that. I was on I think it was a reel or something I saw, and
I saw it on a podcast, but it could have been made into a reel. But that's wild.
It's crazy.
And I can believe it nowadays with the all the stuff that goes with farming nowadays and the regulation, the government involvement and all that crap. I can imagine the stress levels are pretty high.
Yeah. And your family, Carolyn's family, is a little bit closer to that and understands the working of the regulations that, have developed and, farming and how like NAFTA really affected a lot of farmers in this country, not for the better.
No, government regulations have put a lot of small farmers
out of business. And it's tough, it's tough. And think about being a farmer. I'm sure there are people now who are, wrapping up a generation of farming because baby boomers are obviously getting older. They were a huge generation. Are their kids farming? Like you have this family farm that in a couple of 100 acres, all this equipment, a lot of this equipment is financed and is crazy expensive. These tractors and these combines that some of these guys use
they got to go into debt to
hundreds of thousands of dollars for this equipment, granted, they all ride big trucks, but they ain't driving fancy cars and they're sure as heck not wearing, living a fancy lifestyle. None of the ones that I know.
They've always, farmers have always driven big trucks, and it's not their fault that big trucks are now considered an expensive car because you can't, get a 350 for less than $100,000.
Tell me about it.
So, yeah, that's not their fault.
Yeah, it's
So now you don't have kids, but what do you think is a reasonable age to start? Well, to give your kid a phone.
I struggle with that, man, because I have silently judged so many parents. And I think there's two sides, of the story. I think one, as a society, we have not done a real good job of keeping our kids safe away from the parents. So I think some level of communication is important. But at the flip side, man, I've seen things go drastically off the rails with young kids having phones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's drastically off the rails. So what is that? I mean, I think people raise their kids and hopefully you instill those values and they don't get themselves in trouble. But I've seen a lot of people's kids get themselves in trouble with texting, social media, sending pictures, which becomes a very gray area when you're not of the age of 18 and you're texting pictures around and you're in possession of those pictures.
It's just the amount of, you hear the term all the time, influencer, and it's the amount of influence that your kid is getting from outside sources that you don't want them having.
You don't have any control over it. I mean, there's parental locks, I'm sure.
Locks, but man, it doesn't have to necessarily even be, something that would be blocked. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It could still be like just an ideology or, what's being pushed on the kids nowadays. I mean, all of a sudden, out of the blue, we have a generation where like 25% of them say that they're not the right gender and they want to be like, that's not coming from them. That's being pushed onto them.
That's not, it hasn't been the thought of children for hundreds of years. And I'm sure it's not a thought of children that we have been suppressing for hundreds of years, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So, and I mean, our kids didn't have a phone super early, but I mean, looking back, wish we would have waited even longer.
How old were they?
Before they had legit phones. God, you're asking the wrong person. Carolyn's the one that would remember actual birthdays, but they were getting close to being teenagers.
Yeah.
Because, and it wasn't, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't just because we were concerned about them, although, Carolyn would obviously be really concerned about it, but it's also, we didn't feel like friggin' paying for 2 more phone lines, crap's expensive. So we held off as long as we could, but honestly, I wish I would have been a more stern parent and held off even longer. I really do think that, your kids shouldn't have that phone until like they've developed who they are, because otherwise you're going to have other people influencing what they develop into.
Yeah.
And it's so dangerous. It's really scary. I mean, it's really scary to think of the stuff that you can get on a phone. You know what I mean? I mean, we've talked about this. Twitter alone, like you literally can just find porn on Twitter.
Oh,
yeah. And you know what I mean? Like, and as a parent, like you're checking their phone, right? You're checking your son's phone. You're looking for porn sites, right? Make sure they're not going on porn sites or whatever. Well, here you could be on Twitter looking at it.
And no trace, no history, no nothing.
Right.
No. Yeah.
So very scary what's on those and what your kids have access to. And I guess if you're going to give your kid a phone, hopefully you've done a really good job of
instilling some
values and some morals in them. And then you can, I know Carolyn monitored, for a long time, checked the phones and stuff. And anybody that thinks checking your under 18-year-old child's phone is a violation of privacy is just ridiculous.
Nope.
Absolutely not. They're a child. They're your responsibility, and they get whatever privacy you give them, and that's it. They're not owed anything.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole thing. I mean, I feel like raising kids is
oh man,
so different from when we were kids. I mean, just something as simple as like dinner, right? So we had to be in when the streetlights came on. That was it. You had to be home when the streetlights were on. And what was for dinner was what was for dinner, and we ate together.
Right.
There was no, I didn't like this. There was no, can you make me some chicken nuggets? There was none of that. And I feel like I kind of feel like that's where the wheels started to fall off the wagon, even though it doesn't seem like that's a harsh thing. But I feel like when we, have these families that have just like created these menus for kids. Oh, well, what do you want tonight? What do you want tonight? Like, you're not buying the food.
You created an entitled little brat.
Yeah. Something as simple as that, I feel like, is where, things have gotten off the rails. And it's, there was no choice. I mean, my mom worked evenings. If my father cooked us liver and onions because that's what he wanted, that's what was made. And I ate some bad tasting onions. And that was my evening, and I fed the dog some liver. I mean, that was how it went. And if there was a snack, then I would grab that. But, there wasn't always a snack either. Like, there weren't chips laying around, and there wasn't all that stuff laying around in our kitchen at that time. There wasn't a bunch of that. So, it's just, I mean, maybe that's just how I grew up, but.
No, I think that was very common. I mean, you had a lot of people whose parents were in that same economical bracket, and they didn't fill the pantry with goodies for the kids. They had the money to buy the actual meals, and there was maybe a snack or two.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, moms will go out and fill it full of all the stuff little Johnny likes.
Oh yeah.
And if something's not in there, and little Johnny will scream at his mom, and she'll run out and get it for him. It's
just crazy. It's the other thing that we didn't have, though, I mean, we didn't have social media, and obviously we're talking about social media, but the other thing that we really didn't have. Oh.
Did you break something?
Oh, yeah.
Are we still recording?
We're not recording audio here.
What did you do?
I don't know what happened here. This is all check. Now we're recording some stuff.
Check. What did you do? Are we still recording via StreamYard?
Yeah, we're still recording via StreamYard.
Pausing the action. Grab a drink.
It looks like it's still going now.
What is that pop-up box saying?
I don't know, but
Very weird.
There's stuff that is.
Welcome to our mass confusion.
Like, it's not like letting me do anything. I'm just trying to stop it. Holy cow. All right. Bye-bye. Edit. I mean, I think it's all right. I heard some weird, like, clicking noise, and then...
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I heard it.
Sure it wasn't your tinnitus.
It's the sound of impending electronical doom. So...
What is that box?
It's a sample rate, recognize, check conflict between logic and external device.
You might want to check that.
I think I do.
I mean, that's the beauty of the StreamYard, though. You can, once you download it, you can throw it in your thing
and fix it up.
And clip it, snip it.
Maybe we'll do that for this one.
Might have to at this point. Otherwise, people are like, what the
holy cow.
Hat's doing?
What are these two doing?
Oh, baby. What do you want?
All right. All right. IO buffer size. It like started like buffering on me or something. I don't know. That was weird. Resultant latency. Let's 24-bit recording. Let's try this again.
See that?
What's that say? Oh God, I gotta get back to this guy. He's just killing me.
Black is whack.
Yeah, this is I don't know what's happened here. This is the all right. So StreamYard it is, and we will. We're good.
Ooh, what's that? You know you can pull the audio separate from StreamYard, right?
Yeah, and I probably will actually.
If you need to use that for
mastering that stuff.
All right, so you're back to.
Where the heck were we?
We're only 24 minutes in.
Yeah, man.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shnikes. Is that the shirt Carolyn got you?
Yes.
That is too funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know we brought it up at some point. She's like, I've never seen George in that shirt.
Well, here
He doesn't wear the shirt I bought him. I was like, probably not.
she's one of those, huh? So, yeah, I mean, the other thing that we didn't have, and that we didn't have, as kids really growing up in school, and 100% I have it, is fucking ADD, man. How many kids did you know with ADD? Actual, like,
I don't really remember there being anybody.
I don't remember anybody, and now it's like everybody's kid's got attention deficit disorder. What? I mean,
I don't know how I feel about that.
No, you don't think it's true? Do you think ADD is a hoax?
I think young kids especially young boys have trouble focusing.
Mm-hmm.
They're distracted by everything.
Yeah.
Does that mean you have a medical diagnosis and you need medication, or you just need to be treated as a young boy that's what they do, and you just got to try to get them to focus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. We want to medicate everything.
Yeah. And Ritalin, Ritalin is, a lot of people don't realize what Ritalin is. Ritalin is basically caffeine.
Why would you give,
like, overloads the system? It gives them so much stimulation that they just like, whoop, slow down. Yeah, believe it or not, it's caffeine. So
interesting.
And you've got this like generation of ADD kids who then went to college and started taking Adderall.
Yeah.
And Adderall, I feel like Adderall was maybe like just after us in college.
So what does Adderall do?
Adderall is like it's an upper, it keeps you awake for long periods of time, so you can just study and go on benders.
All right.
So
I remember playing poker with some people that were
really taking Adderall.
Some Adderall
To play poker.
Yeah.
Yeah, it like really increases your focus.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I would still suck.
Yes, you would. You would only be more mad.
I'd be very alert and pissed off.
That's good stuff. But yeah, I mean, we weren't like my generation. My nursing school generation wasn't the. We didn't have Adderall. I mean, I drank Jolt Cola, which they've taken off the market. Ugh. Jolt Cola and Mountain Dew, and
gosh.
So
you didn't have Monster and what do you call it then?
I don't think we had that then. I didn't drink that then.
When we were in college,
I feel like Red Bull was coming out. I feel like Red Bull came out like just as I graduated nursing school, and then the Red Bull, everybody's drinking Red Bull and vodka at the club. It was like Red Bull and vodka, which
it's so bad for you.
I could never understand. Like, you're taking an upper and a downer. It's like
so bad for you.
It can't be good, man. It can't be good. And I'm glad.
I'm going to sit here and act like I've never had it, but it's so bad for you.
I've had Red Bull once when we had to go out to Indiana, Stacy and her younger sisters, and I was leaving here spur of the moment at like 11 o'clock. I was leaving New Jersey to drive to Indiana, and her younger sister Alexa was like, I was getting Mountain Dews, and she's like, Mountain Dew? She's like, let's get a couple of Red Bulls. We'll go all night. And she wasn't wrong. I mean, like, the sun was coming up and I was still wide awake driving.
I wish I had that.
And but I just don't like the way it made me feel, and I don't like the way it tasted. I'm glad I don't like Red Bull. I've tried the sugar-free stuff, still don't like it.
I'm I would say big fan, but on road trips, I have the Green Monster.
There you go.
And I like the taste. I don't know if it's really helping me.
Okay.
I don't know. I've always been so immune to like the caffeine thing. I could drink a 2-liter of Pepsi and go to sleep. Like, it doesn't have that kind of effect on me. It never has. It's never got me wide awake and, the jitters or anything like that. I can drink soda and go right to bed.
I feel like as I've gotten older, caffeine affects me more. I used to be able to drink coffee like at night and just go right to sleep.
Yeah. And
now there's two things I do that I don't sleep well. And if I drink a lot, I won't sleep well. If I drink coffee before I go to bed, I won't sleep well. And and that's as I've probably gotten into my 40s. I mean, before that, it was like, it didn't even matter. I could do whatever. I mean, but when I got out of nursing school, we were working nights, and we were working, you would go and you would work a 12, which wasn't really a 12. It was like a 14 by the time you got out of that job. And you would work day shift, and then you would work another 12, which is really like a 14 day shift. And then you would be off a day and come back and work a 12-hour night shift. And you would be on this rotation of like 2 days in a night or 2 nights in a day. over the course of a week, all 12-hour shifts. And it was, you learn to cope with some staying awake time with that. So
I did nights for a while, off and on with that Combs job, man. I just never could get into that. It's pretty miserable.
I didn't mind working the nights. I didn't like switching back and forth. I felt like if you just put me on nights, I could adjust. But they say, and this has been studies that have been out there for 20 or 30 years, every 5 years of night shift you work takes a year off your life.
I would believe that. I feel it just changes your whole world. And I feel like your whole world becomes about work, because when you're not working, you're sleeping during the day, which is weird. And it's just like, it just kills a social life.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was miserable. I didn't like it at all.
Well, social life, we used to leave Helene Fold at 7 a.m. I remember my first night shift. They're like, "Yo, you want to go get a beer after work?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I want to go get a beer after work." And then at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I said, "Did it dawn on you guys that we get off at 7 a.m.?" And they're like, "Yeah." And we go down the road, down Old Ave to this place called Top Road Tavern. And they are open at 7 a.m. and they can serve shots and beer.
Mm.
And that's it. Shots and beer, 7 a.m. And they used to have steak and eggs. And it was packed. Packed.
Well, people from like where you worked?
You couldn't. It was hospital people, because there were 2 hospitals in Trenton down there. Actually 3, but 2 hospitals that went to that bar. And all of the grocery stores had due to people who stocked the shelves at night. And that's where they would go. And there were still like 2 rubber factories in town.
Drunkards.
Yeah, it was packed. First time I walked into a bar at 7 a.m. and it was like packed. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. And then we'd get banged up because we worked night shift, and you'd sleep in the parking lot.
Wow.
Until you sobered up, and then you'd drive home for a couple of hours, come back and do it all over again.
So I was never able to be, I felt like I wanted to try to keep it as much like working day shift as I wanted to sleep. I wanted to come home and not sleep, and then go sleep and get up and go to work.
Oh, that's tough.
Some people will come home and sleep, and then they're up to all this time, and then you go to work. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But then it got to the point, once we had the kids, I would come home. Well, it was like high five in the doorway. The wife was going to work for day shift, and I was up all day with our first child, like baby, basically like solo parenting for the whole day, and had to do that until the wife got home at like 5. And then I would have to go to sleep right away and try to sleep and get up and go to work at midnight. It was just miserable.
Well, I mean, that's how my parents did it. My father, my father worked at the base, so he had to be at work at, 7 o'clock or whenever time they had to be at work over in the base. And my mom got off at 7 or 7:30 because she worked at the hospital night shift. So they would like pass each other on Lakehurst Road. My sister and I mean, at like a young age, and I mean a young age, I mean probably like 4 and 5, we're home alone every day for like 20, 25 minutes.
Wow.
That
went down wrong.
Whiskey hit you.
It just went down wrong.
So it's, like
So,
we were home alone at a young age while they were like passing each other on the road because that's what they do to pay the bills.
So social media.
We digress.
That's how it goes. What else about social media?
Oh my God.
It's the devil.
It's, it's tough to put boundaries on it. I feel like when we go, like our lives, I feel like are a little bit different, and I don't feel like I would be on social media as much as I am if we didn't have YouTube in our lives and Instagram in our lives that we actually scroll through, and that we're interacting with people who are, on our posts. And, it's more than just our social media. For me, social media for you is more than just us browsing social media just to see what's going on. And I feel like if I didn't have that, I probably would be under that 2 hours a day of social media. I probably really would be, because I don't really go on Facebook anymore. I mean, You know,
Yeah, Facebook is it's
the
terrible.
last election ruined Facebook for me, so I just don't go there anymore. I just, I mean, I browse through it for a couple of minutes, but I'm not like on it.
I feel like
I'm
they had a
not.
hardcore. Feel like Facebook was hardcore, like shadow banning.
Oh yeah,
because back in the day, several years ago, whatever, maybe in the last election, whatever, I post a lot of political stuff on there because I don't know, like that's just kind of what I want to do. Like I don't really care about what my friends are eating.
Nope.
And all the stupid little memes and what your kids are doing. It's like, that's not why I'm on there. So I'm on there, and I see, something political, whatever, a meme, whatever, I post that. So I had a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of debates and arguments with people over politics, blah, blah, blah. And I started to realize, like, when I did post something, like it got no views, like no likes, no nothing. Like it was just, and I had, hundreds of friends. Now, obviously this is Facebook, so it's like not wide open to everybody. It's
right.
Whoever's your friends are, but like hundreds and 300-400 friends. And like, I post something and it like has 2 likes.
I think
2 thummy.
I think
upbeats.
Facebook did worse than that. I think, especially with anything that I posted that was political. I think Facebook took that post and fed it not to people with the same style of posts, but people with the opposite posts. So it would take a conservative post.
Really? I would have taken that because then I would at least have people to argue with. But
every time with me, it would take a conservative post that I posted, and it would like feed it to all the liberal people on my Facebook, and then it would take their liberal posts, and I would have like all of these liberal posts on my Facebook, and I'm like, what the actual hell is going on? And that's true because how many of my posts got seriously trolled? I mean, how trolled? I mean, I had to block people because they were just troll blowing my posts. Like,
when I really think about it, and I know how many people, friends, because a lot of the people on Facebook I actually know, like unlike some other like Instagram where you just anybody, whatever. Like I know these people, and I know they have similar or very similar to the same political beliefs, and I get like 0 comments in support. But the couple people who are completely opposite opinion are always there to, and I'm talking like they were always there to like be the first one to comment and want to argue. And I'm like, that's fine that you're seeing it, but like, is anybody that like agrees with like anybody with the same political opinion, like, do they see the post? Like, how do you even know? I don't know. It's just,
what I think is funny is I had somebody block me, and then he made a post about blocking me to justify like him blocking me.
Yeah.
And that was Wesley. Wesley blocks me, and he made the post about blocking me. And then somebody calls me up, and somebody else calls me up, and he was like, "Yo, I hear you got blocked today. Good job." I was like, "How do you? I don't know. I don't know that. How do you know that?" He goes, "I made a post about it." Like these people are.
Well, we know now. We now know from recent court, rulings that the government was heavily involved in social media and and like controlling that, and what a mess that is.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, are you surprised?
Not surprised, just disgusted.
Yeah, disgusted, disappointed. I mean, you call it what it was. This stuff has been going on since the beginning of time. Media manipulation has been going on since the beginning of media. It happened with the colonies. I mean, if you dig into
the colonies,
if you dig into how,
wait, hold on, go ahead.
If you dig into how, the colonists got support to be against the British. I mean, there were a lot of loyalists here, in the 13 colonies, and these guys drummed up support, through propaganda. That's how they did it. I mean, Ben Franklin was instrumental in that.
Propaganda is a word.
It is what it is. Everything is propaganda.
Yeah, anything can be propaganda.
Anything can be propaganda.
That's why it just loses like,
but we associate propaganda with like the Nazis. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what we associate propaganda with, definitely negative, but it's been used on both sides. I associate
propaganda with being blatant lies that are just spewed over and over and over. I don't know the actual Webster's definition, but Webster's at this point like has words in it that aren't real words. So I don't even know if I believe their definition anymore. the American language is so polluted at this point.
I just wanted to see information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view.
Right. So even if one side of an argument is voicing facts, well, the other side's just going to say it's propaganda and lies.
Yeah.
So that means everything becomes propaganda.
Right. Because right.
But misleading.
Biased or misleading. Yeah. So I mean,
but so should facts
biased?
Be biased and misleading?
I guess facts are biased if you're not presenting all of the facts. If you're only presenting some of the facts, you can mislead with facts. Even though they're facts, you can lead somebody. Case in point, we had somebody post a comment on one of our videos that said, "That's great. You put more lights in the back of your motorcycle. It's too bad that only 6% of motorcycle accidents happen from the rear," and which is a fact. 6% of motorcycle accidents happen from the rear. However, if you break out the 60% of motorcycle accidents that don't involve another vehicle, that they folded that 6% in, what is the actual percentage of accidents that involve another vehicle that happen from the rear? It's a lot higher than 6%. Is 6% still a fact? Yes.
Well, facts and statistics are two different things.
It's a statistic, but regardless, it's information and it's misleading.
Sure.
Motorcycles are dangerous. Are they? Yes. Are they as dangerous as people think? Probably not.
Yeah, I got nothing on that.
I mean, it's most accidents don't involve another rider. Don't involve another vehicle. A lot of accidents.
A lot of motorcycle accidents are solo and they're rider's fault.
Right. So, does that, yeah. So, I think that's just one example of information that is true being misleading. So, it's like the whole taxation without representation. It's kind of true. They were supposed to be represented, but they were represented by, people who they didn't choose, and those people didn't come to the colonies. So they were as represented as other colonies were in England. They just were a world away.
So if you take everything really literal, everything's going to be propaganda, but there's a lot of gray area in the world.
There's a lot of gray area.
So,
there's a lot of gray area.
I want my government to not be involved in social media, the media.
They turned Facebook into propaganda. Fact. They turned Twitter into propaganda. Fact.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They've,
It's a lot of manipulation.
Right. Exactly. There's a lot of anytime there's greed and power and it's, this is nothing new. Look at the bombers in World War II, Memphis Belle. Like, why did they want the Memphis Belle to be so successful when they got towards the end of the tour? Not because they loved those guys and those were great pilots. All those guys were great pilots. They were more lucky probably than they were great that they didn't get shot out of the sky with flak or by fight or fight, But, the Army Air Force wanted to use them on a war bonds tour.
Yeah.
It wasn't like to honor them. That's not why the Memphis Belle went on that huge, tour after the fact, around the country, flying from airport to airport. It wasn't to glorify those guys who just flew 18 missions with, in the 8th Air Force that had a casualty rate of probably 60% or whatever it was. It was pretty high, over the entire war, but they did that for publicity and for propaganda.
Rarely when the government is honoring any of those military people or groups, it's not because they give a crap about those people or groups. It's something to benefit them.
Right. So I don't know, where were we with that? That was social media and
yeah, no, I don't know. It's really, it's also dangerous. And we're all knee deep in it. Like, it's so much a part of our life now. Look, like you can't, and not, by social media, just the tech of the phones, and not necessarily by social media. I don't necessarily just mean like Instagram, Facebook or whatever. I just, the need for the phone. You can't, there's restaurants you can't even go and they don't have a real menu. If you don't have a phone, like they're like, okay, we'll go find you a paper. Like they don't put out menus, and that, a lot of that stemmed obviously from the whole Corona, but
another way COVID changed our life.
But there really still are a lot of them like that, where they're trying, like they don't want to bring you a menu, like they have them in backup, but here they got the little barcode on the table. Like if you don't have that, you feel like an outcast, like if you don't have a phone.
And here's the conspiracy end of that. What does that allow a restaurant to do? Change their prices almost daily.
Yeah,
change their prices almost daily. Like people don't think about that.
Yeah,
and I've seen it like when we've gone, when I've traveled around on business in places that we've been to a week and a week later we're there again, and it's like, how did stuff just get more expensive overnight? And there was no printing of a menu involved. There was nothing. It was just like we go on our little Wix site and we boop, boop, boop and change the price and off to the races, and people scan it and that's the site they get. And we are rolling.
Yeah.
Made it easy to keep up with inflation, as we would say.
It's brutal.
Yep.
It's brutal.
It's like the gas stations, it's like it basically made them like gas stations. The threat of, oil production, or the threat of something, is just allows them to up gas prices. For people in New Jersey, though, it's interesting. Little known fact about gas prices in New Jersey is the Turnpike and the Parkway can only change them once a week. They only change them on Fridays. They're only allowed to change gas prices once a week. So, and this is
they're already like way higher than everybody else.
Not always. When gas prices fluctuate a lot, though, it's like, and you like, I would never get on the Turnpike to go buy gas, but I know if I'm getting on the Turnpike and gas prices have gone up a lot in the week, I will wait to get on the Turnpike to go buy gas. 100%. Yeah, weird thing.
Gas is a whole nother topic.
Oh.
That's a whole what? That's another podcast.
The price of fuel.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's affecting us in negative ways in so many ways. I mean, I think it affects relationships. I mean, we're both married. We see the effects of it. We see how the
scrolling.
How it.
I tell her she scrolls more than me. She tells me I scroll more than her.
Yes. But
there's one rule I joke about, and that's like, and listen, if you're a married man, this is definitely the rule, whether you know it or not. Now you do. When she's done scrolling, we're done scrolling. Probably not like that in your house, but it's definitely like that. In this house.
Again, and it goes to it would certainly save a lot of,
back and forth
angst and arguments. But that is a big fight starter.
It's a thing because it's perception.
It's a legit thing, and it's like,
because when you're buried in your phone, you're not worried about what else somebody else is doing. You're not, when you're buried in your phone and you're scrolling, you're not paying attention to the person who's sitting next to you.
Right.
But the minute you put that phone down, then you're like, well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well,
I feel
I'm
like
doing what you were just doing,
and we don't do this, and maybe we should. By we, I mean me and my wife, but like I think laying some ground rules and actually having some rules would be helpful, because you get into that bickering about it, and it's like,
I hate rules.
Well, I don't like rules either, but when it comes to marriage, there's a lot of rules involved, whether they're written or unwritten. It doesn't matter. There's still rules, but it's just, it causes the argument of who's on it more, and then it's like, then it's tit for tat, because it's if I'm on my phone and she says something and I kind of like am zoned out, and then it's like, oh, well, you ignore me. And then when I turn around and it's the other way around and she's on her phone and I say something and she doesn't respond right away. And then I'm like, oh, you're ignoring me for your phone. And she's like, well, you do it. So you get into that tit for tat crap that's just no good for any of us. So, and it's all caused by the freaking phone.
It's all the phone, man.
Freaking phone's fault, man.
I was late to get a cell phone too. I don't think I had a cell phone until I was like, I want to say I was 23, maybe.
But is that really late though? That's like when they were coming out.
I feel like they were around for a little bit.
Yeah, if you wanted a giant brick.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I think I'm around the same 20.
When was the
23?
When was the first cell phone call made?
Cell phone call?
Yeah, when was the first cell phone call
you'd have
documents
to
being
Google
made?
that. I have no idea.
I did already, 1978.
Can you imagine? That probably was as big as these speakers, that phone.
That phone was
In a
huge.
car with a giant cord.
Oh my god, I knew so many people with like the remember the car phones. Remember the phones that were like in the car that were like built into the dash. Toyota, I don't know if you knew Toyota Supra and Lexus. Like when Lexus first came out, they had these car phones that were like house phones that were like in the dash. You know, and it was like such a big deal.
Fancy.
You know, to see. It was like, what's it
My
cost to make
first
a
phone
call?
was not my phone.
Oh, really?
So my first cell phone was on my girlfriend at the time's
You shyster.
plan.
You shyster.
So it was technically her phone. And then it's a funny story because the wife has told this story before. So we ended up splitting up, and I had been calling my now wife from that phone.
On that phone.
She just assumed it was my phone, which, I mean, it was my phone. It just wasn't my plan. And then we broke up, and obviously my ex took the phone back. She was paying for it. And then the current wife called, and the ex answered, and she's like, "This is his phone." And I don't know. It's just awkward for my wife. She was mad at me because I didn't tell her it wasn't
your phone.
She wasn't my wife at the time, but yeah, it wasn't my phone.
Details.
Oh, you didn't really ask me. I mean, I like to give the least amount of details to drag it out of me.
So we're coming around the 50-minute mark here. So good or bad?
Dang.
Good or bad?
What's that?
Social media.
I mean, good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really look at it, there's so many positives to it, and then there's just so many negatives, and I don't know how you make the damaging part of it, like how you solve that. I mean, I'd be lying if I sat here and act like I know we did this podcast on this topic, but I don't have answers to how to make it less unhealthy.
No.
I mean, I guess we all should limit our time. We should, make some, make it a focal point, make sure to put the phone down once in a while.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to say. Just like, and I am guilty. And again, maybe if we weren't in this little world of YouTube and then because now we're on YouTube, we try to promote stuff on Instagram and blah, blah, blah. Like if we weren't in that, maybe I'd be on it less, but maybe I wouldn't, because I mean, even before that, I was on it a lot, and I was in the fantasy football and this, that, and the next. So I'm looking at sports stuff. I mean, it's kind of like being on a computer. I mean, you got all that access.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't know how you reel that back. It's like you can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle, right? I mean, I don't know how.
Can't put the genie back in the lamp.
There's no such thing. But yeah, I mean, it's just, how do we reel that back in and make it something that's not unhealthy? I don't know. If you got those answers, just leave that in the comment.
I mean, I think there is an answer, and I think the answer is you just need to know yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, if you can't put
easier said than done, I think.
Yeah, I think
most of us don't know ourselves.
Yeah,
that's why this addiction is such a huge thing in the world.
Addiction is a thing, and I mean, if you have an addictive personality, I mean, that's a whole nother podcast. But it's you need to figure it out for yourself, and it's it can be a tough thing for some people.
Yeah, but how many people really self-reflect and correct their own issues?
I don't know. I like to see the good in the world. I would hope more people self-reflect and don't, but I got a few people in my life right now that need some self-reflection. That's for sure.
Listen, as a Christian, I'd love to see the good in people too.
Yeah,
man, it's really hard nowadays.
It's tough.
It's really tough, especially if you have to drive anywhere.
Whew.
I always say God created cars just to really test people's faith, and I don't know. I guess it's an individual thing because it ain't going away. I mean,
no, it's only going to get more and more involved.
It's just going to probably get worse.
And I think it's going to involve. It's like any technology; it's going to not evolve at the rate that it's been evolving over our lifetime. We are going to see it
speed up.
When we were kids, the Jetsons were making, video phone calls, and whoever thought in our life that we'd be making video phone calls? Now we have whole video meetings. I got a whole team on a meeting.
There's flying cars now.
There are flying cars now.
It's big in Dubai.
Big in Dubai.
I just saw a thing on it.
I'll bet it is.
And I was like, what? I mean, I know they're and who trusts those? They're basically like giant drones.
Yeah.
Like that's what they look like. The big ass drones.
Yeah.
Who is trusting that? I don't even trust helicopters, and they've been around forever.
I don't know why they need flying cars to buy. They're going to build that huge long mirror wall where you're not going to be able to have to travel anywhere. So what are they doing over there?
Insane. I watched the whole video on Dubai the other day. Just the money, and now I've been there, and I didn't even know some of it. It's insane the money that these people
Oh yeah,
just throw around.
have sucked out of.
I will say though, man, they built some nice highways and nice roadways.
Oh yeah.
They do a lot better job than we do here.
Yeah, well, most of our roadways and highways were,
Our
built
roads suck.
in 1950s.
Suck.
So
The patch jobs
are
That's
terrible.
all they do now. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, if anybody has the magic answer out there, I'd love to hear it.
No, but we appreciate your use of social media, because if it wasn't for social media, you wouldn't be listening to us today or
How ironic.
watching us on the YouTube.
Here we are
so
complaining about what we're trying to do here for, I don't know. It's crazy.
all right.
It's a good topic though. Good subject. I mean, it affects us all, and we all have to learn how to deal with it and not let it ruin our lives.
Yeah. Like you don't let anything else ruin your life, whether it's drugs or alcohol or
Well, it goes back to
anything
the
else.
age. Too much anything is a bad thing. I mean,
moderation.
everything in moderation, right? And we've gotten
moderation
so far away from that. It's not even funny. We dive headfirst into everything. Yeah.
Oh, that
That's
one
a
got
wrap.
me. All right. That one got me.
Thanks for listening to our
Yeah.
rant on social media and
That's it.
technology.
And catch us where you catch all your local podcasts. And we will catch you in the next one.
Later.
Bye.